Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. Dada, with episode 843 of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and it is Friday. So in a rare occurrence, you know exactly what that means. We are here to break down everything that happened not only in NXT and AEW, but also TNA wrestling as Thursday Night Impact made its debut on AMC. We have an absolute ton to discuss on today's show, so we're not going to waste any further time at the top. Allow the Silver King to remind you that the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast
is all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show. But if you click our link tree, so the link in our profile on both Twitter and Blue Sky, there's a bunch of extras there. Not only is the Buy Me a Coffee link there, not only is a WWE shop link there, so you can save money, we get a 10% kickback as well. Great reason to use that. But we now have a link to our brand new Slack, a discussion forum for listeners and followers of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Our link is in there. It's an invite link. Click it, join up, and talk wrestling every day, all day with your friends, both Silver King and Vintage, and of course, the listenership, the Getting Overheads of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. When you subscribe to us on YouTube, not only do you get to listen to the episodes, you can watch full-length video interviews as well. So no matter where you want to find us, whatever information you need to gather, you will find it at Getting Overcast. All right, like I said, a loaded show, a ton to get to. We're going to go in this order of operations. We're going to talk NXT, AEW, and then TNA wrestling. We will have timestamps in the episode description. When we talk NXT, we're also going to throw in a little bit of Evolve information in there as well. Silver King was able to catch up on those shows over the last week. I told you, now that football season is, not as dominant as it was. It's definitely the playoffs, but during the week, a lot less happens. Silver King's able to get a little bit more into some of the wrestling stuff I missed over the last couple of months. I still need to watch that Tony Khan interview with Ariel Helwani. That probably will happen next week. I don't know if it's still going to be relevant, 2 months later, but we'll do our best. But like I said, we have NXT, we have AEW, and we have TNA. All of that is coming up.
But I'm afraid I've got some news.
And pretty much all of it surrounds TNA wrestlers and their futures. Mustafa Ali, Cedric Alexander, Steve Maclin, and Nick Nemeth all re-signed with TNA recently. They're important retentions for this company ahead of that AMC debut, which happened on Thursday. And it's lost many other wrestlers recently, mostly to AEW, but obviously a couple notable ones to WWE as well. What I found mostly interesting about those four names I just read to you, though, is Mustafa Ali was in a match on Thursday. Cedric Alexander, you only saw him backstage briefly. Maclin wasn't there. There was some type of travel issue. And Nick Nemeth, who was like, I don't want to say he's your biggest star, but because he was Dolph Ziggler and he was recently a TNA champion, maybe he was. Dude wasn't on the show at all Thursday night. And that's one of multiple astounding things that happened on that program we will be talking about on this podcast. So those are all people who re-signed. A group of four who did not re-sign is the Rascals. They have signed with AEW. There was a brief graphic package for them on Dynamite this Wednesday. So that means that AEW has signed those four dudes, Josh Alexander, Ace Austin, Jake something, and Mike Bailey. That's 8 people, all well inside of a year. And I'm forgetting, I don't think Megan Bain worked there previously, so I'm not going to include her. But WWE, they get crap for Jordan Grace, Joe Hendry, and likely Leon Slater coming up, even though that's hardly official. He's still X Division champion. But let me be clear. None of this is a problem in either direction. If there are wrestlers who are free agents, they are free to sign wherever the hell they want, and these companies are free to sign whoever the hell they want. But there is out there this selective criticism that it's bad when WWE signs people, but it's not an issue when AEW does it. Look at all those names I just mentioned The Rascals, Josh Alexander, Ace Austin, Jake something, Mike Bailey, those are people who, if they were on this debut of Impact, would have made it a much, much, much better show. But all of them were not there, including the Rascals most recently. And as far as them in AEW, I mean, we'll see, man. If you're telling me that they're going to be heavily featured on Ring of Honor and work the trios division in AEW, I can see it, because both the tag and trios divisions right now are in the absolute shits. But I don't know, man. AEW, to me, should be focused on signing people that will raise their profile. And instead, it largely seems like they just bring in different versions of the same people. Like, I like Desmond Xavier, Wesley in NXT, and I was upset they cut him, but it was clear that he had a singles run. He got the back injury and left. He came back, kind of lost something. Then he cut all his hair. It was like, what was it, the opposite of Samson? Like, he cut all his hair and he lost. It was Samson. He lost all his hair and his aura went with it. And, I know I'm not saying the hair is back, but I know he's doing better in TNA at the end for a couple appearances than he was in NXT at the tail end. But, like, I don't know if that's someone in their group that you bring in, as exciting as they may be wrestling wise, that is going to actually enhance your company in any significant way. So we'll see. They're not moving away from the druggy gimmick. That was part of the, small graphics package that AEW aired on Dynamite. Best of luck to them, for real. But I would kind of be surprised if they're not a majority ROH talent in, 3 to 4 months. That's just my guess. Anyway, we have a lot of show left. NXT, AEW, and TNA, as mentioned. I do need to remind you before we get into that here at Getting Over,
I happen to love the number 5.
And I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month or $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover, sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, support us. You get extra content, allows us to keep the lights on. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. All right, let's get through this breakdown of NXT, then AEW, then TNA wrestling. As mentioned, timestamps in the episode description so you can jump around, but I do hope you listen to the entire show. Before NXT began, WWE on social media announced that Vanity Project, Keanu Carver, and Eli Drake were all signed by NXT from Evolve and the WWE ID program. Keanu Carver was part of the same breakout tournament as Oba Femi, which I want to say was 2023. So that just tells you where his development needed to go. But he did develop and evolve, and we'll talk about how he made his debut on NXT. Vanity Project, absolute no-brainers, as everyone knows. Eli Drake, I mean, this guy barely got a cup of coffee in Evolve. I think he had 2 matches, one on NXT TV, and they're like, all right, yeah, kid, you're up. Now, I don't know if that's a direct replacement, quote unquote, for Javon Evans, because they're both small, thin dudes who can fly around, but maybe it is. Either way, quick call up, far faster than Vanity Project, and certainly faster than Keanu Carver. Let's get into what happened on TV. Ava opened the show, set to make an announcement about the vacated NXT Championship. It seemed like the whole roster was around the ring, but Ricky Saints interrupted with his full entrance, proud of himself for running the entire 2025 Stand and Deliver main event off the show. And fair enough, because he did do that. He put over the future of NXT around the ring, saying he's the present and he's expecting the title to be handed over to him. Instead, Ava proclaimed a 6-man ladder match on the February 3rd NXT with qualifying matches beginning next week. That led to a brawl erupting with Saints and Joe Hendry kind of at the center of it. Carver made his debut coming down the ramp as this happened. He defenestrated a random dude from ringside over the barricade into the crowd in one motion. Then he did the same to another dude from the ring to the ringside area over the top rope. Then he powerbombed Brooks Jensen through the announce table and threw Jackson Drake, who's the Evolve champion, out of the ring like he was nothing. He wound up standing tall with his eyes bloodshot as hell. We later saw Tony D'Angelo walking in the background of an Ava backstage segment, and Miles Bourne physically assaulted Mr. Stone, trying to convince him to put Bourne in a qualifying match. Most of this was rather formulaic, and the talent around the ring, it really did not impress, but it was inventive debuting Carver this way. And his actions told the viewer immediately, not only is he a big deal, he's going to be a real threat to win this as a rookie. You got to start somewhere in 2026. So that moment, as far as I'm concerned,
Big meaty man slapping meat. That's what I want.
it's our inaugural champion. If that doesn't count as a big meaty moment, shit, I don't know what does. Talk about a wake-up call. I'd be stunned if Saints, Hendry, and Carver did not take up 3 of the 6 spots. That's where my head was when the segment ended. I figured Dion Lennox should get a 4th. D'Angelo, you got to imagine, would be involved as a 5th. And then Bourne would be the 6th spot. And you have a match. And I thought, maybe Bourne gets involved in the North American title picture because he's been going back and forth a little bit with Ethan Page. And if so, and you have an extra spot, I figured, all right, Sean Spears, Josh Briggs, one of those guys will take it, a veteran presence in the ring. So that was my guess of the 6 men that would be in this match coming out of the opening segment. Particularly curious was this match being announced for a February 3rd TV show and not Vengeance Day. And you may say, Silver King, why wouldn't they announce it for Vengeance Day? Well, I'll tell you, because WWE hasn't announced Vengeance Day, period. It did a full week ago last year. I think they announced it on January 6th. As we're taping the show, it is the 16th. This tells me the WWE does not have a media rights deal for NXT Premium Live events, which makes absolutely no sense to me. It's going to be intriguing to see whether this is even announced, if it's skipped, if it's used as a TV special, because this has been a tentpole NXT PLE for years. It has been nominated for the meaty for PLE of the year multiple times. It's usually one of the shows where they stack the lineup. Now, it could be because the men's division got shipped off and they lost Jordan Grace and they're actually trying to figure out the card. But generally, you're still announcing the show, the on sale, getting tickets sold. So, I mean, if it's not a media rights issue, then they can't find a venue that they think they're going to sell. I don't know what's happening, but the fact is we're a month out from when Vengeance Day should be, and the show has not been announced. Saints was later interviewed backstage. He said he came to a compromise with Ava that he would get a free pass into the ladder match because he was owed an NXT title rematch. So there are only going to be 5 qualifiers. Then he announced 2 of them, Sean Legacy versus Eli Knight and Josh Briggs versus Shiloh Hill. This was stunning to me. Briggs, we mentioned a moment ago, but Legacy or Knight, 2 guys who were Evolve talents up until Eli just got announced as signing with NXT earlier Tuesday. Knight wasn't signed to NXT. He's been there in Evolve for the full year, doing great. We thought he should have got called up 6 months ago. What have either of those guys done to deserve such an opportunity? I mean, what has Shiloh Hill done to deserve an opportunity? I presume that Legacy gets that win, but again, Knight is the one who was signed and announced. So I guess we'll see what happens in that match. I assume Briggs is going to win the other one, but that is going to leave only 3 spots for Hendry, Carver, Lennox, D'Angelo, and Bourne, meaning 2 of those names at a minimum will get left out. Maybe D'Angelo gets held out because he still said nothing since returning, and then maybe Hendry isn't involved somehow. Again, those are my thoughts at the time. Ilio LaFleur explained that his mask was given to him by a luchador named Nitro, who held a seminar in France and awarded it to the best trainee. So he wanted to honor both Nitro and Lucha Libre tradition by wearing that mask with pride. Then he spoke in English, saying he's ready to slash the sky. This was much better than last week, far more informative and intriguing. And it just makes you wonder, when you can do a video package like this so briefly and get across so much information for a guy, why doesn't NXT do this more? Why doesn't the WWE main roster? Why doesn't AEW do this more? Really frustrating. Ethan Page backstage congratulated Ava on signing Vanity Project. He asked who he would be fighting his qualifying match against, only to be told he will not have that opportunity at all. Ava said she would give him a shot if he vacates the North American title because they're focused on the future. Page had no interest in doing that, of course, so Ava said that she would ensure he was in the spotlight a different way by putting the North American title on the line next week against LaFleur. Ethan rightly questioned why a debuting superstar would get a title match. Great question, dude. To which Ava pointed out, that's exactly what Ethan got when he debuted. It's like they shut me up before I could even criticize it because, yeah, that's what I was going to say. So ridiculous to give someone a shot before they earned it, but to be fair, Page got that match at Battleground and then got a second title match less than 2 months later, and he won the championship. It also works because Ethan is going to be a great foil for LaFleur in his debut. The real logic gap here was Ava excluding Paige from being in the tournament because he could become a double champion. Since when has that been an issue before? If you want to force him to vacate the North American title, should he win the NXT title? Okay, I'll take that. I buy it. But there's no legitimate reason he can't compete for the strap. Stephanie Vaquer had an NXT title match while North American champion won it, defended, I believe, the North American title, and then dropped the North American title. So why couldn't Ethan Page do the same thing? That did not make a shred of sense. Vanity Project backstage was excited about all the girls they might run into in NXT. Jackson Drake assumed that he would be part of the qualifying series, while Swipe Right found out that they will get a match against Chase U. Carver then came into the picture, which sent all three heels scurrying. It was a fun little segment. These four guys are already adding so much personality to NXT. It's a bit of a rewind back to the high school days, couple snobby jocks, and the quiet kid that everyone's scared of, the quiet kid, of course, being Carver. Dark State got a promo package saying they didn't ask for opportunity in 2025. They took it, and anyone that stepped to them got dropped. We saw what they can do, but don't know what they're capable of achieving. They singled out Joe Hendry and Out the Mud as part of this, probably one of their better packages. The audio levels were off. It was tough to understand them. Plus, when exactly is Dark State going to get interesting? And when are we going to see them on screen with a level of consistency? They are four supposedly dominant dudes. They should be wrecking shop constantly. And they're missing this key element that makes factions like NWO, Degeneration X, Judgment Day, even Chase U interesting. And that is interpersonal relationships. These are just four guys who beat people up and talk about beating people up. They don't have unique personalities. We never see them interact backstage as a foursome outside of when Lennox decided to give up the tag team title. And that segment was one of the more interesting ones they've ever done. The only time they were interesting is when Cutler James said some really sus stuff a couple times. And then that personality that he was developing got completely dropped out of nowhere. NXT must do better with these guys. Lennox and Sugars have legitimate long-term potential, and they're just in this group that exists. We as viewers need a reason to care about them. It is okay to have stables and factions and groups, but if you're just putting people together and saying accept them as a unit, then we as viewers are not going to. We need reasons to care about Sugars and Lennox individually and together. And then what is their relationship like with these other guys? And if you're not telling us that, then you're either being lazy or you don't have plans. Either one is not a good reason to have a faction. So we had Hendry against Lennox in a no disqualification match. This main event at NXT, Booker T was straight up hysterical doing Hendry's entrance. He's amazing. Hendry hit a superplex early. Lennox quickly took over. Saquon Sugar set up a steel chair between the top ropes, but Hendry reversed Lennox into the metal. I believe Joe then hit Dion with brass knuckles for a false finish. Brass knuckles, false finish. Replay showed that he didn't get all of it, but still. Hendry landed a fallaway slam, but when he went for standing ovation, Dark State handed Lennox a kendo stick to escape. They wore each other out with the stick before Hendry hit standing ovation for a broken fall. Out the Mud had been doing nothing about the interference all match as Lennox hit a slingshot Liger bomb, so they finally pulled him out of the ring to stop the count. The seconds all brawled backstage, leaving the two competitors remaining. Hendry took a spinebuster into a chair. Lennox took a second standing ovation into a chair. Kind of stupid given that's Hendry's finisher. Lennox speared Hendry through a leaning table. All of these false finishes. When he went to use a chair, D'Angelo interfered, hitting Lennox with a chair and doing his signature slam, which is the exact same move as standing O. He offered Hendry a hand only to hit him with the same move, deciding to drag Hendry's body over that of Lennox for the win. Ava sent out security after the bell, but D'Angelo destroyed those dudes 1-on-4 before staring down Ava and exiting. Because Hendry and D'Angelo have the same signature, we saw like 4 or 5 standing O's in a 4 or 5 minute span. It was ridiculous and really should have been thought through. There's a level of interest in D'Angelo for me, but it's tough to buy because he came back December 6th and has done absolutely nothing in 5 weeks but stand around menacingly. If D'Angelo was so hell-bent on making an impact, why are you sitting on your hands for over a month? The real answer is because plans changed at NXT and they had to reconfigure his role. But now he's getting involved in a completely random singles match without anything on the line and choosing to put the babyface over. Is that telling us his alignment? Beyond the Tony D of it all, the match was frustrating. The utilization of the no DQ stipulation was interesting. The way Dark State got involved and helped throughout, but the amount of false finishes from significant moves, it made it seem like these guys were fighting for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. You're kicking out of brass knuckles, finishers into chairs, a spear through a table. What are we doing here? I mean, there's no DQ matches where you allow a little bit of that to happen because of the stipulation, but this was like a barn burner, end of feud, blow off where something was on the line. It was booked ridiculously. Blake Monroe opened hour 2 of NXT saying she shouldn't have been penalized for attacking Thea Hale, considering it was ridiculous that she even had to compete for the title in the first place. Blake said, when you're as talented as her, people don't always know what to do with you. They'll whine and complain and debate about her without realizing she's the standard, she's the moment, the most complete woman in NXT who everyone talks about no matter what she does. Monroe said she lost patience last week, and every story ends in the same truth. There are stars and there are women who spend their careers trying to be stars. A return interrupted the end of that statement. I'm assuming that's what she was trying to say. But that return was Jaida Parker coming back for the first time since October to a massive, and I mean massive, pop. Blake immediately cut her off, so Jaida said, F it, swung at her, charged her into the corner, manhandled her into the ropes, hit a teardrop, and then Hypnotic knocking Monroe off the ropes outside. This segment was made for the Silver King. I'm not sure if it was Blake's best promo in NXT, but it was certainly her most confident. She had the crowd wrapped around her finger. I did expect more specificity in terms of her direction. She didn't seem that bothered by not being North American champion, which is okay if you have another goal, like being NXT champion, but she didn't state that or anything similar. Makes me believe perhaps they're going to run the Parker feud, have Blake put Jaida over, bring her up to the main roster. Still, Blake's line about not losing control but losing patience, that was perfection. It fit her character with ease. And the Jaida return was completely unexpected at the tail end of it. Parker looked great, and it was amazing to see how vociferous the crowd was in their support of her. I'm not exaggerating when I say it was like a bomb went off when her music hit. Popped everyone out of their seats. That is star power. That's Miss Parker. Lola Vice fought Kalani Jordan. This was a lot hotter at the bell than I expected. Lonnie did well playing heel, and when Lola tried her I'm a Latina move, she said something else, but I couldn't make it out. Vice caught Jordan with a leg lariat flying off the apron ringside, then put her in a rear naked choke. Lonnie answered with a frog splash, but when she tried one of a kind, Lola had it scouted, catching her on the landing with a triangle choke. Lonnie avoided the back fist and hit an Olympic slam, but Lola avoided a 450, only to get rolled over when the referee caught Jordan trying to cheat in the ropes. Arguing with him was the distraction that Vice needed to land her spinning back fist, and get the win. Talk about exceeding expectations. This match was impressive. Both largely work matches that are about getting their moves in. This told the story, not only through the match itself, but as part of their relationship and feud. Lonnie taking a L was welcome as well, too. She never does that. And Lola's arrow is pointing up again. So this match did a lot for both of them, and it was one of the best parts of the entire show. Izzy Dame hit the ring solo, flexing that she's the North American champion, not Thea Hale, Tatum Paxley, or Monroe. She said she did not fall into success through the open challenge. This is something she earned and deserved. She wasn't about to cry or feel sorry for herself after losing to Tatum because the calling gets rid of weakness and exploits mistakes. Dame talked a lot here. Like, way too much. Way too verbose. Izzy was out there giving us a novel when all we needed was an essay. She told Lola to keep her name out of her mouth and told Thea that crying about her loss wasn't going to get her another opportunity. Then she said that anyone trying to go after her was not contending for a title, but walking into a trap. Security tried to stop Paxley, who was running out there. She got thrown, attacked Dame, then lost her shit, headbutting a referee in the face. Tatum got kicked out of the building after the commercial break for doing that. You just don't see NXT flipping the title over to Tatum. I don't, at least, after giving it to Izzy on the same night she lost to Paxley. What makes the most sense is probably a multi-woman title match to clear the field of challengers and reset the division. Paxley should be taking the NXT title off JC Jane anyway. But yeah, 2 long promos from Izzy the last couple of weeks where she has droned on way, way too long. She is capable on the mic, which is great. It's so difficult to speak in front of a live audience, but her promos badly need to be managed. And it's not just about the length, it's about the content and the intonation. It's like she's out there trying to win a debate competition rather than bigging herself up and trashing her opponents. Less is going to be more, Izzy. And if you can get out there and say, let's say 8 sentences, you're going to be successful. We don't need 80. It's as simple as that. Ren Sinclair and Kendall Gray were outside Ava's office trying to talk to her about another NXT title opportunity for Kendall. Zaruka interrupted, saying they were there for the same thing, and Gray didn't deserve another shot. Zarya tried to wedge drive, asking Sinclair why she was okay with Gray doubling up when she hasn't gotten an opportunity. Ren answered that Kendall was better than her right now, to which her friend bigged her up and promised to support her. Never mind the fact that Ren has only been allowed to wrestle one singles match over 5 minutes in the last 2 years, but sure, she deserves an NXT title opportunity. Sol Ruka pointed out that JC Jane already beat both of them, and when JC appeared in the doorway of Ava's office, they all stormed inside. Ava announced not a number one contender for Jane, but rather 3 teams in the office all fighting for a number one contendership for the TNA Knockouts tag team titles. Hysterical that it took Zarya to say on screen what has been annoying me for 2 months. Ren should be getting legitimate opportunities in the title picture. It was nice to see Zaruka have a bit of an edge, but it was dumb for the 4 of them to be placated by this announcement when the NXT title is obviously a much bigger deal. I'm going to presume that Zaruka wins. They're most likely to help TNA with a rating out of the 3 options, but I would have liked at the end of the segment for them to say, this is good, Ava, great, but next week we want an answer about the NXT title. That's the way this should have ended. Speed Championship was on the line. Jasper Troy against Tavian Heights. There were a couple solid pre-match tape promos. Troy won with Black Hole Slam. I will not relent for my takes about this. It's a total waste of NXT TV time. Troy's presentation with the stupid chains sucks. The title is ill-fitting for him. Something about him overall, it's just not clicking. He was more believable in LFG because he stood out. I'll say it now. I'm not sure Jasper Troy is going to happen.
Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Lexus King attacked Heights out of the crowd after the bell, looking absolutely crazed. He hit the Coronation King later, bragged about his beatdown to Chase U, saying the NXT title is his birthright. Stax came through and put Lexus over for helping him with the TNA International title. This is the first time we've seen any interaction between them and heard on NXT TV in any type of detail about this invasion of TNA. I think they're called the NXT Outlaws or something like that. Spoiler alert, we didn't see them on Thursday night. Again, something that did not make any sense. Hopefully this is an opportunity for Tavian to get a win back and get featured. Chase U still existing is strange to me. This thing is dead. I mean, these guys appear on screen. No one gives a shit. When Chase U used to appear on screen, the crowd would lose its mind. I don't get what they're doing here. TNA International Championship, Stax defending against Shiloh Hill. The challenger got a promo package where he went over his exciting end to 2025 before talking about squirrels and taking them out of a tree and bringing them home, only for the squirrels to freak out. He called his sister Darkness. Evil, motherfucker. And then it just kind of went on from there. What's funny is I Googled it. His sister's real name is Darkness. Like, it's not a gimmick. So that's pretty interesting. It's clear what they are trying to do with this guy. But yeah, I'm not sure it's working. He's got personality and promo ability. The gimmick is off-putting. I don't really know how to explain that in other words to you. Like, it's just not working. It's weird, and it doesn't make you... There's gimmicks that are supposed to make you feel uncomfortable because they're evil or bad or whatever the case. This makes me feel uncomfortable because I just don't want it on my TV. And it makes me feel like there's something mentally wrong with this guy. In reality, not the character that he's playing, even though I know he's obviously just playing it. Stax dipped and kissed Ariana Grace, who smacked Hill across the face before the bell. I realized that with a TNA title on the line, it would be ideal for a TNA referee to be officiating the match. It would add a little bit of realism to it. They should work that way on both shows. If an NXT title gets defended over there, it's a NXT polo. If a TNA title is being defended in WWE, it should be a TNA polo. Hill basically did a Constantine special using the ring apron. That was pretty cool. Grace saved Stax from a dive with Hill defenestrating himself under the bottom rope over the ring apron. The energy here was way, way higher than I expected. Shiloh took a stupid tooth out, ran through Stax, hitting double underhook twisting slam and a standing moonsault senton. Ariana got involved, giving Hill a couple double pinning combination opportunities, but when they got close to the ropes, Grace pushed Hill with her feet, allowing Stax to reverse an inside cradle and retain the title. It got super, super messy in the finish. Some parts of this were better than expected. Shiloh has legitimate talent and a crazy motor. He's green as hell. Stax, try as they might with him, I'm just not seeing it. He's probably better off in TNA, like full time. When it comes to Hill, if he's going to succeed, they're going to have to pivot from this gimmick sooner than later. As I said, it's just not working. What is working for the Silver King, though, is NordVPN, because whether it's Raw, SmackDown, NXT, or premium live events on Netflix, I'm all in these days. NordVPN is easy to set up. It's a drastically better viewing experience each night. The same high-quality streams, except you get commercial-free shows. All you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover, open the app, quick connect to another country like the UK, open Netflix, and watch the program. That's going to be crucial for the Royal Rumble, especially for those of you still with Comcast or YouTube TV. NordVPN also allows you to get around online censorship or surveillance and protect your private data when web browsing. Plus, one NordVPN account, it can be used on 10 devices. To get the best discount, go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link will give you 4 extra free months off the 2-year plan, and there is no risk because Nord has a 30-day money-back guarantee. So improve your WWE viewing, save money, browse safer online, and get the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. It is great to have NordVPN as the official singular sponsor of your boys right here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Let's move over to Evolve quickly. Catch up 4 months in 6 bullet points. Kendall Gray's title win over Callie Armstrong was basically the best Evolve match of the new era in WWE. 4 stars, A-. That was episode 33 if you want to see it. Ironic that Callie lost. I believed she was getting called up to NXT, yet it's Kendall who is now on TV weekly as champion. Listening to her cut promos in Evolve, she still needs a lot of work, unsurprising, of course. I caught up with a lot of Carver's matches ahead of him getting real run on NXT. He's still incredibly raw as a prospect, nowhere near as developed as Femi, even if you compared him to Oba a year ago. In fact, despite their very basic visual similarities, they are quite different wrestlers. Carver is more of a power fighter. Sean Legacy is incredibly impressive. It's to the point that I don't understand why he didn't get the NXT call-up officially on Tuesday with the others, especially considering he's wrestling in one of those qualifiers. Vanity Project in totality remains great. Jackson Drake has a lot of promise as a mid-card champion on the main roster. It's got a long way to go. His ceiling is higher than Swipe Right, even though they're also going to be a legit tag team, and they do have a high ceiling. By the way, Wendy Chu has shed her sleep paralysis demon persona. She's back to being a regular wrestler after going to therapy and kayfabe. I doubt she ever leaves Evolve, but it was nice to see her as a regular person for the first time in WWE. Something else that's odd is Charlie Dempsey is working Evolve and not NXT, despite the men's division being absolute shits. I don't understand it. He doesn't need in-ring work. He can speak. What is happening here? Why is he not being used on NXT? These are questions I cannot answer. Let's move over to AEW. 4 of the 12 matches this week were storyline relevant, so 33%, and that includes only 3 of 5 on Dynamite, which is usually good to be 100% relevant. Collision, it could have been an email. The show is unwatchable at this point. Dynamite had some solid wrestling and an important main event. It's clear the company struggles to make compelling TV when not building for an imminent pay-per-view, and its next one is not until March. On Collision and Dynamite, Brody King beat a couple jobbers in an average of 30 seconds. The second jobber he beat was MJF's translator, John Cruz, who is also Serpentico. That was from last week. He got introduced, and he beat him this week. Remarkable stuff. On Dynamite, the AEW Championship main evented, MJF defending against Bandido. Bandido was flipping and flying all over the place, and I do not say that disparagingly. The guy is crazy athletic. He did a huge standing splash from the top rope over a close barricade into the crowd. I thought he was going to follow off the barricade, but he instead did a Poison Rana and Code Red back in the ring. MJF came off the move set kind of with a slingshot cutter. Bandido answered with a shooting star press. MJF flipped out of 21-plex and stopped Code Red, with Bandido doing a cool flip out of a backdrop attempt. Really nice pinning combination reversals followed. Bandido hit an X-knee plus 21-plex. MJF sold it like The Rock, and Bandido wasn't able to cover right away. That was hysterical. MJF came back with Salt of the Earth, and then the label lock. Bandido gave him the finger while in the hold, and then he passed out. And it ended in referee stoppage with MJF retaining the title. MJF caught an exhausted promo after the bell. He admitted that Bandido will be a champion in AEW one day. As such, to prevent that, he attacked him with the belt. Brody saved Bandido from getting his mask removed as the show ended. I presume King is going to get his own shot sooner than later. If that's going to be the case, that's fine. He needs to do a lot more than beat jobbers in singles matches to actually deserve an opportunity. I'm glad MJF won clean. He just got the title. Bandido was game as a challenger. As the ROH champion, I was okay with him passing out rather than tapping out. That's obviously a situation AEW put itself in by booking the match, but it was a perfectly acceptable finish. A bit odd for MJF to win with a submission that was not his own, but the idea is that Salt of the Earth is too painful to pass out from, so they needed to use a move in which you could pass out, and it would make sense. Not going to take too much else away from this. 4.25 stars A. Really nice work bell to bell with these guys. Strong main event, match of the week in AEW, and that's what it should be when your title is on the line in the main event of a special show. I believe it was called Maximum Carnage. So this did completely work, and I liked the way MJF acknowledged that Bandido was going to be a world champion eventually, and therefore he needed to beat the shit out of him to try to prevent that from happening, to try to injure him. That was really smart heel tactics. On Dynamite, Samoa Joe backstage said he put a bounty on Hangman Page, considering he had a scheduled trios match already on the show. Brian Keith came in basically just saying he was going to cash in after they previously met 3 years ago and he lost. I believe this was the second bounty in as many weeks. At least the prior situation was not a one-off. If they're actually going to use Keith in this manner, fair enough. He should probably win sometimes, though. Anyway, Page beat Keith in 10 minutes. Swerve Strickland showed up to ensure that he could get it done. Hangman was focused on hurting Joe, while Swerve said they'll both be coming after MJF in the title. Kenny Omega's advertised return came as they were all in the ring, and I laughed internally a bit because I realized Omega is basically on the Roman Reigns plan of returning 6 times a year, those returns being announced, the return moment being something, and then getting like 1 match or 2 matches on the back end and then disappearing again. Omega said he was also a challenger for the AEW title, and if the fans still believe he's the god of professional wrestling, they should back him on his journey. He also stated that he needed to win a few matches before becoming a legitimate contender, which I obviously loved to hear.
Thank you!
Hangman shook his hand in a may the best man win type of way, but Swerve just eyed him up and down. I presume we'll get a triple threat between them after Hangman and Swerve get their stuff done and Omega wins a couple of matches. Omega's tightest promo in a bit, he looked pretty healthy too, so a huge improvement. But just as this segment was ending, and I was pretty high on it, to my chagrin, Don Callis walks out with 3 losers from his family. He suggested Omega wrestle Josh Alexander, considering Alexander broke Kota Ibushi's leg. Mind you, that happened 3 months ago. Shouldn't it have been Kenny out there making that challenge on behalf of his friend, wanting revenge, as opposed to a heel saying, hey, babyface, don't you want revenge? Forget for a moment that Omega and Callis is tired as hell. Forget for a moment that AEW has this loaded roster and Omega is an incredible wrestler, so they could have put him against any number of awesome competitors. Forget for a moment that Omega has been in the ring with this guy twice since he broke Ibushi's leg and barely done anything about it. This was absolutely idiotic having it go this way. Omega should have straight up made the challenge, saying he knows he needs to win matches and he wants to start by taking out the guy who put his best friend on the shelf. Why could he not have done that? If he did, then Callis can come out, talk shit, maybe put someone in the way of that match. Kenny beats that person, then he beats Alexander, and so on. This was dumb. On Collision, Mercedes Moné got a promo package where she sat in front of a mirror after getting covered in cake last week, saying heroes don't build divisions, icons do. This was really working for me until she started talking about the PWI and SI awards, which is not something that someone snapping would be thinking about in this way. Then she got into her start and stop promo style, saying she's taking a break from AEW so they can see how they're nothing without her. This was well-intentioned. The visuals worked. The promo only hit 50%. Disappointing because I thought I would love it. And also, why are you putting this on Collision that is watched by 200,000 people when you can put it on Dynamite watched by more than twice as many people? That doesn't make sense either. On Collision, Death Riders beat Skyflight to open the show. No reason for the match happening, of course. Zeta Steele, previously from Evolve, signed here. She was with the Faces. John Moxley on commentary talked about how AEW has wrestlers lying around doing nothing who are some of the best in the world. I'm not sure that's a positive thing to say, bro, let alone is it accurate. There was a whole ridiculous botch sequence in this match where one of the top flight guys forgot to get in position to take a tope ringside, so the Death Riders kept running the ropes and did not stop until Wheeler Yuta yeeted himself out of the ring into nothing. It was horrific. Good for Zeta, I guess, going on a brand where she's getting a little bit of action on TV. If she waited in WWE, she would have been up in NXT with Swipe Right and Vanity Project, and maybe she didn't like it over there. And if she didn't, cool, go work where you want. But I mean, NXT gets viewership equal to better, than AEW right now, and that's in the WWE system. So I was just a little surprised that she left. Steele got murked by Megan Bayne after the bell, especially when she's going over there and just getting murdered by Megan Bayne. Welcome to the show, I guess. I presume these guys are primarily working ROH or something because we never see them. It's a go nowhere group. It's not going to work on Dynamite and Collision. Best of luck to Skyflight. On Dynamite, Darby Allin beat Pac in the opener. They did a whole brawl in and out of the crowd before the bell even rang. As soon as they got ringside, Pac did an overhead belly-to-belly suplex into the actual stairs of the steel steps. So Allin landed back first into the spiky stairs. A gnarly spot on regular TV before the bell rang that neither ended the match nor canceled the match nor led to the finish. Don't get me wrong, it looked awesome. But with that context, it was so damn stupid. The referee got knocked out. Darby made Pac tap with no one to call it. Yuta ran in and immediately got eliminated with a Scorpion Death Drop. Darby then wrapped a chair around the wrong foot of Pac, so he had to fix it, put it on the right foot. He did a coffin drop onto the ankle before tapping him out in Scorpion Deathlock. Well wrestled, high energy match, an important result as Darby has now defeated all of the Death Riders. Does that mean this is now finally done? Please, twice after the bell, twice commentary talked about him climbing Mount Everest. Is Pac now getting written out for 3 months due to the ankle spot? Because he only seems to show up at AEW in like bursts before disappearing. Yuta really did look like a bum here. B+, A- borderline match. On Collision, Babes of Wrath and Chris Statlander beat Hyan, Maya World, and Vert Vixen in 9 minutes. These are your brand new babyface champions. You have them beating low carders, 2 of whom were gifted contracts for public relations reasons on your B show for no reason whatsoever. A tune-up match, okay, but why them? How about a backstage segment with the young women challenging the champions because they wanted to prove themselves? Then you at least have a reason for the match happening. Thekla cut a promo from the stage on them, saying she didn't need friends because she has her sisters. I mean, it's the exact same concept. Friends and sisters. Stat, by the way, she's gone away from her alien aesthetic again. She still has the dumb nickname. Really rough promos both ways here. On Dynamite, Triangle of Madness beat Stat and Babes of Wrath in the Lone Women's segment. At least this one had a storyline with relevance and value. All 6 women in this match wore black, all 6 of them. The ones who stood out were Sky Blue, who had a little blue accent, and Willow Nightingale with gold. Stat saved Willow eating a spear and stomp from Thekla for the 1-2-3. I guess she was watching Shield matches before this. I didn't love Stat taking the fall, considering she beat Mercedes and Toni Storm over the last few months, but I get it. The goal was to give Thekla a reason to be number 1 contender for the title. It was one of the show's more valuable moments, let's say. On Collision, Kyle Fletcher backstage told Callis that someone needs to talk to Kazuchika Okada about the way he's operating within the faction, specifically hitting Konosuke Takeshita with his screwdriver at World's End. Callis responded by saying Okada was the one getting screwed because he lost the title, and they needed to worry about Fletcher winning the TNT Championship back so they could have their 7th match to break the tie. 7th match. Remember when people cried about repeats in WWE? Anyway, Fletcher wasn't buying it, and it was probably one of the more interesting Callis segments we've gotten in quite some time. It does seem like the faction split is coming eventually. What that will look like is anyone's guess. On Collision, Mark Briscoe retained the TNT title over Hechicero. This was at least a deserved shot through an eliminator that was actually a number 1 contendership last week. Hechicero did a cool-looking Hurricanrana that was executed horizontally instead of vertically, except that meant Briscoe didn't take any actual punishment. We were told 3 different times after the bell that it was amazing. 3 times. This was amazing. Wow, what an amazing match. It was definitely the second best one on the show, but it was a B-level bout. On Collision, El Clone beat Commander in the best match on the show. B+ Lucha Libre Showcase. Josh Alexander cut a promo beforehand saying nothing as the Don Callis family beat up nobodies backstage again. Why is this guy the speaker of the faction now? Like, what are we doing with this? On Collision, The Demand beat Jet Speed and Anthony Bowens in the main event. For some reason, this was a main event match with these guys on this show. For some reason, they were teaming together. I didn't know the answer to that. Max Caster came down and started fighting after, so the Callis family and members of the conglomeration did as well. There were like 20 people in and around the ring. AEW has done a real poor job capitalizing on Briscoe's title win, having him involved in shit like this. Skyflight did a promo on Dynamite, and Steele got to speak briefly. They were focused on the Callis family and Alexander. I just assumed that would happen on Collision, and it was coming off of this segment. On Dynamite, Jake Doyle and Mark Davis beat GOA, Jet Speed, and the Young Bucks in a tag team title number 1 contendership. On one hand, it was nice seeing the tag team division featured and the new guy in Doyle getting a shot. On the other, you have heels fighting heels in FTR now for no real reason. A guy who just entered the promotion is already competing for a title again. GOA remains seriously underutilized, and Jet Speed got knocked down another peg, or so I thought, taking the fall in this match. There were also the standard Bucks choreography shit that made me want to change the channel as quickly as possible. Jack Perry flew in from out of nowhere to take out Ricochet. Doyle had a real cool counter of a Hurricanrana, rolling through it and tossing Speedball out of the ring. Davis then beat Kevin Knight with a pile driver. Can I tell you what's crazy? And I, for some reason, failed to realize it up until this match. Fletcher and Davis are both under Callis, but not operating as Aussie Open. Fletcher turned on Davis, and then months later, Davis returned and just joined up with Callis anyway. And I remember that happening, but I just never put two and two together in my head. FTR came out and the four heels brawled afterward. The crowd didn't respond well because, yeah, they're all heels, so they had no one to cheer. Jet Speed were down in the dumps after their loss. Swerve came through and bigged them up, saying he knows Mike Bailey can do better and he believes Kevin Knight is the future of the business. When he left, Hangman came through and announced that he's going to take the trios titles from Samoa Joe with them as his partners. So just to clarify, these guys not only lost a number one contendership for the tag team titles, they got pinned in the finish of the match. And on the same show, inside of 30 minutes, I think, they are named number one contenders for the trios titles, despite not even teaming with Paige in a match since September. Does that math work out for you? No? You're not alone.
Are you fucking kidding me?
On Collision, Eddie Kingston, Ortiz, and GYV argued backstage ahead of their match next week. And on Collision, Mina Shirakawa beat Lady Frost in 3 minutes and got flowers for doing it. 3 minutes. So that was AEW Dynamite and Collision this week. Certainly not a tentpole week for AEW. Like I said, Collision remains a total waste of time. Dynamite, definitely some valuable segments and definitely some entertaining segments. There's a lot of frustration as well. Let's move to TNA Thursday Night. Impact obviously making its debut live on AMC. Absolutely hysterical to me that TNA began this monster show with an immediate technical issue. AJ Styles' logo showed up on the big screen. It took a full minute for his music to hit. Other stuff that made me laugh, TNA announcing about a dozen influencers and so-called stars, none of whom I'd ever seen before in my entire life. And they put them in the crowd with tons of empty seats behind them, which was a horrible visual. Anyway, Styles opened the show with a passionate promo that was mostly just getting the crowd to chant TNA. Better than nothing, but it was pretty close to nothing at the same time. Styles later confronted champion Frankie Kazarian backstage, looking at his TNA title before walking away. Man, Silver King's prediction seems like it might be coming true after all. Styles later told Mike Santana he wanted him to kick Kazarian's ass and lead TNA into the future, and they had a really clean dap-up as well. TNA President Carlos Silva, ahead of the main event, introduced Dixie Carter of all people. While getting booed, she thanked everyone and called it a sentimental night for her. This was high comedy as well, completely unnecessary reminder of the woman who almost killed the company. This was basically like the equivalent of Hulk Hogan coming out on the Netflix debut of Raw. The only way it could have been better is if Double J came out next. Bully Ray then entered, stared her down, given their pass, and then hugged her. And he did commentary. He said they made up. So the TNA Championship was the main event. Kazarian against Santana. Kaz had a nice midair counter of a rolling 450 with a backstabber. Santana answered with a perfect rolling cutter and relatively smooth Spanish fly for men of their size. He added a counter code red for a false finish. Kaz came back with Angel's Wings for Christopher Daniels, a slingshot cutter, and a springboard twisting leg drop. Kaz ducked spin the block before Santana dodged a dropkick, with the referee getting knocked down. At this point, the match is not good. It's great. Great match. Santana landed spin the block for no count, of course, because the referee was down. Kaz came back with a belt shot to the dome and Deadeye on the ring apron for another false finish. Still a great match. Everything's fine. And then Santana completely 100% no-sold a Canadian Destroyer, just like that Penta Orange Cassidy match. That was absurd. And he no-sold it to the point he was able to hit spin the block and cover for a 2.9 false finish where the referee's hand seemed to hit a third time. I don't mind when that happens if it's on purpose. I couldn't tell whether it was. They botched something after this. Kaz failed on spin the block. Santana landed it once more, and he won back the TNA title. It sounded like they were going to do a predetermined rematch on Genesis, and that it was announced that whoever won this would still defend the title against the loser, even if it potentially was Kaz beating Santana. So they're going to fight again. I don't get that at all. There was a point in this match where I was saying to myself, you know what? This is pretty damn good. And then, man, it just got convoluted as hell through the finish. The Destroyer no-sell was ridiculous. Kaz kicking out of the finisher was unnecessary. And the whole thing just kind of ended with less of a bang than one would want. Flipping the title back was obviously the right move, so congratulations to Santana. It was easily the best match and segment of the entire night by a mile, really. But that's hardly saying anything. And like I said, after this was rolling on its way to a potential A- grade, It fell apart in the final 2 minutes. A messy spot fest without selling. I'm at 3.5 stars B. I just can't go higher than that. Now, normally I would wait until the end of a breakdown to give you my overall thoughts on a show. And don't get it twisted. We're going to talk about everything else that happened. But the fact of the matter is that this was probably a D-graded pilot episode. Outside of the title change and 2 surprises that happened in one segment, it was close to unwatchable. I understand that stuff planned for the show did not happen for a variety of reasons. But why were folks like Moose, Cedric Alexander, Nick Nemeth, hell, even Tessa Blanchard, not wrestling on such a big night? I thought Collision from last week set the bar for worst show of the year. This immediately surpassed it. Is it possible that this was the Raw on Netflix debut equivalent, meaning that it was bad because it was special and suddenly everything's going to be better next week? I mean, sure, that's possible. I don't see it. The men's division is thin. The women's division is almost non-existent. The production was amateur, and the show just did not work. I will DVR it weekly. I will fast forward through it, probably a month at a time. Maybe we'll cover TNA ahead of every special event that they do. We'll just give you the bullet points like we did for Evolve. But this is not going to be a weekly segment. The Getting Over Wrestling podcast will continue airing this episode on Thursdays, talking NXT and AEW. And we'll throw some TNA in there when necessary, and it'll probably be a week delayed, just how it's going to be. The Hardys and Elijah beat Order 4 in the opener. That's Mustafa Ali's group, mind you. Elijah did a superplex out of the corner, literally standing on the back of the other Order 4 guys. Matt Hardy hit a twist of fate on Ali, who had a woman on his back. Another dude then took twist of fate and swanton bomb in the finish. Appropriate babyface win to start the show. Ali's Secret Service guy attacked after, but the Righteous saved, turned heel, and literally locked Jeff by his earlobe in the corner so he couldn't help Matt, who took a swanton from Vincent. They either challenged for Genesis or just reiterated that they would win the titles on the show. I wasn't sure. Everyone here did find it wasn't particularly exciting as a first-time live viewer. Seemed like an immensely weak attack. You have a guy chained up by his ear. You probably should have destroyed Matt with weapons and stuff. Doing one swanton bomb and talking shit didn't necessitate locking Jeff by his ear in the corner. Santino Marella hit the ring upset that Ariana Grace turned her back on him. He announced that the board decided he needed some assistance managing the day-to-day, introducing Sonya Deville, who is going by the name Daria Ray, her real first and middle name. She immediately turned on Santino, saying he wasn't professional or serious enough to get the job done. And then she introduced Cora Jade, who is going by Elena Black. Not sure if she was more enhanced than last time we saw her, but that was definitely the look. Daria in an authority role that works, but she was kind of screeching here when she said that she had someone to welcome. I legitimately thought it was going to be Mandy Rose. Alas, I once believed that Black would make her way back to WWE. Over the last year, it just seems less and less likely. I believe she was dealing with some mental health issues, so I hope she's doing better, and I'm happy to see her wrestling again. Later backstage, Stax and Ariana shared pity for Santino, pleased that TNA hired Daria. The smoothness and flash of these two speaking, doing a backstage segment, it really stood out on the show. Li Ying Lee, the former Xia Li, ironically enough, hit the ring with Xia Brookside. Santino announced that number one contender Danny Luna will not be able to compete at Genesis due to a visa issue. Instead, Lee will be competing in an open challenge, which was answered by Zaruka hitting the ring. Zarya's music hit first, and I thought she was going to challenge. I got pretty excited for that. Then Solruka started talking, and it seemed like she was just going to get another title opportunity. But that was actually a well-done mini-swerve. Sol put Zarya over and said she should challenge for the title. That surprised and pleased her. It surprised and pleased me. Nice little segment. I'm glad Zarya is getting a single shot. Going to be curious to see how they prevent the title change given the huge differential in size and prominence. The TNA Knockouts division is really in dire straits right now. They should be doing whatever they can to sign people like Dakota Kai and just put them in as main eventers. She could easily be the top woman in this company along with Danny. Luna needs to win the title as soon as she is able. Another change was made for Genesis because Leon Slater had a kayfabe visa issue and was now no longer able to defend his X Division championship at the show. In reality, WWE asked him to do the European tour, and TNA, I guess, let that happen. I'm not sure about like his specific contract status, but for some reason, he's going to be working WWE over TNA. So it's going to be Cedric Alexander versus Moose versus Joe Hendry in a triple threat match for nothing, rather than Cedric and Moose getting a title shot. Again, how are you building a special show? And Now nothing is on the line. The system came out to promote Fandango's final wrestling match. He goes by JDC. He will be fighting stablemate Eddie Edwards on the show. JDC then announced that while he is retiring, the system will remain strong because he will be announcing a replacement next week. Knockouts Tag Team Championships, Elegance brand beat the Inspiration to win the titles. Perez Hilton was in the ring with the heels to unveil someone named Mr. Elegance, who I guess is part of the faction now. He's, a really toned model type of guy. This was sloppy as hell, as one would expect given the participants. The dude actually got involved, took out Jesse McKay's knee, leading to a roll-up and a championship change. This was ugly as hell. It looks like the Inspiration are gone from TNA after this too. I presume they're going to AEW. I cannot imagine why WWE would sign them given their women's division right now, but the Royal Rumble is coming up. Yes, the tag team titles are getting featured prominently, but unless you're going to have them with Chelsea Green, which absolutely could work, by the way, unless that's what you're going to do, I don't understand why WWE would sign them. I also don't understand why Inspiration was given an out with someone taking out their knee when they're leaving the promotion. Just lose clean. Put the other women over. What are you doing there? Indy Hartwell backstage said she's gotten off her game recently, but she's ready to get back to fulfilling her childhood dream of being champion. Elegance brand interrupted her while celebrating, talking shit and such. Not much to this at all. Indy still really struggles cutting a solo promo. So that was TNA Wrestling. Like I said, this will not be a weekly watch for the Silver King. I will pay attention. I will fast forward through episodes. We will discuss it here in bullet point fashion, but we're not going to go show by show impact breakdowns with NXT and AEW like we do every single week, of course, on the normal Thursday show, which will remain on Thursday. We will be back on Tuesday talking all things WWE. Don't forget, on the way out of this show, please remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Follow us on social media at Getting Overcast. You'll get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show. When you click on the link in our profile, you can sign up for our brand new Slack channel. So again, at Getting Overcast on YouTube. When you subscribe there, you can listen to our episodes and you can watch full-length video interviews as well. And lastly, folks, please remember,
It's all about the 5.
so head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Thanks, everyone, for listening to this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. This is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.